I know Karine unfortunately worked for the most incompetent president in history, so I guess she has a reason to be bitter, but being bitter will not sell you books, Jesse.
Is Peter Doocy one of those good reporters? Are you sure?
Look, Peter's a good guy. We have our tussles with Peter too. No mistakes there. And it's a stark contrast to what they had over the past 4 years, where they were gaslit, where they were told Joe Biden was mentally stable and up for the job. That was a lie. Where they were told the administration was doing everything it could to secure the border. Also a lie. I'm very proud to work for the greatest president in history.
The ongoing feud between Karoline Leavitt and former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre just took an even uglier turn after KJP got offended by a joke Karoline made about Barack Obama. But Karoline didn't back down. She fired right back, turning a lighthearted jab into a sharp, full-blown takedown. And now, the tension between them has reached a whole new level.
Someone who can't find work is the same person who had your job about a year ago. We call her Binder. KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre. You, I guess, had made a joke about, it was like your mama joke, and she didn't like that. This is what she said. Roll it.
It's deplorable. And I'm using that word on purpose.
Yeah.
Because they don't seem to understand, this is the Trump White House, that they don't work for just one man.
Yeah.
They work for the American people. The White House press secretary is not about doing online trolling.
Right.
It is not. It is an honor and a privilege to have that job.
Karine Jean-Pierre tried to twist the situation in her favor, calling Karoline Leavitt's joke deplorable and dismissing her as just another online troll. She accused Karoline of acting unprofessionally, claiming she was wasting time with petty remarks instead of focusing on her duties as press secretary. But that's when things really shifted. Karoline didn't let the insult pass. She hit back with precision. Her response was confident, cutting, and unapologetic, completely flipping the narrative. Once you hear what she said, it's clear this rivalry is only heating up. Here's Karoline's fiery reply.
Called you deplorable, and you say?
Well, with all due respect to my predecessor, she is one of the main culprits of the greatest cover-up and scandal in American history. She took the podium every day and lied to the press about the incompetence of her boss. And on this book tour, she continues to lie. She said this past week that Joe Biden would still be up for the job if he had, God forbid, been reelected in November. She actually said this week as well on a podcast that Joe Biden did more press engagements than President Trump currently does now. Any person across the aisle can tell you that is a bald-faced lie.
Karoline went on the attack, holding nothing back against Karine Jean-Pierre. She accused KJP of being a major part of what she called the biggest cover-up in U.S. history, an effort to hide President Biden's worsening mental decline during the final phase of his presidency. Now that Biden's struggles have become impossible to ignore, Karoline said Jean-Pierre is still desperately clinging to the old talking points, pretending everything was fine. Despite increasing evidence to the contrary, KJP keeps insisting Biden was alert, sharp, and fully in charge, a defense that's losing credibility fast. Even questions about whether Biden personally approved his last round of pardons have deepened the doubts. Karoline's message was direct. KJP isn't protecting the truth. She's protecting a false image. And Americans, she said, are finally starting to see through it. But Karoline wasn't done yet.
And I will just add, when you talk to the real journalists, not the ones who are actually activists that pose as journalists, but the people who actually care about truth, and there are some of those left in the White House press corps, I work with them every day, they will tell you the Trump White House is the most accessible and transparent White House ever. Not only does the president take questions from the press on a near daily basis, multiple times per day, as he did today, but we also provide truthful and accurate information about what this administration is doing and accomplishing.
Karoline didn't get rattled by Karine Jean-Pierre's insult. Instead, she turned it into motivation. After being labeled an internet troll, she clapped back by drawing a clear line between their time at the podium. According to Karoline, the White House is now far more open and transparent than it ever was under KJP's watch. She highlighted that accessibility and accountability have returned. Reporters can finally ask real questions and receive honest answers instead of rehearsed talking points. Karoline credited President Trump for setting that tone, facing the press directly and answering tough questions, something she said was nearly non-existent under Biden. As Karoline put it, the difference is night and day. A press corps that's no longer shut out, a president who actually engages, and a press secretary who doesn't hide behind excuses. It was a confident, pointed response, and it hit the mark perfectly.
Also provide truthful and accurate information about what this administration is doing and accomplishing. And it's a stark contrast to what they had over the past 4 years, where they were gaslit, where they were told Joe Biden was mentally stable and up for the job. That was a lie. Where they were told the administration was doing everything it could to secure the border. Also a lie. I'm very proud to work for the greatest president in history. I know Karine unfortunately worked for the most incompetent president in history, so I guess she has a reason to be bitter, but being bitter will not sell you books.
I still remember when Biden and Kamala Harris confidently told Americans the southern border was secure. They said it so convincingly that many people believed them. But reality eventually caught up. Over 1 million illegal crossings later, their assurances fell apart, revealing just how far the truth had been stretched. And that wasn't even the biggest deception of the Biden years. The Hunter Biden laptop story, once dismissed, censored, and labeled as Russian disinformation, turned out to be true all along. So when Karoline Leavitt calls out Karine Jean-Pierre and the administration for misleading the American public, she's not exaggerating. She's demanding accountability after years of cover-ups, denial, and political spin. Someone had to speak up, and she did.
Very proud to work for the greatest president in history. I know Karine unfortunately worked for the most incompetent president in history, so I guess she has a reason to be bitter, but being bitter will not sell you books, Jesse.
Is Peter Doocy one of those good reporters? Are you sure?
Look, Peter's a good guy. We have our tussles with Peter too. No mistakes there.
All right.
Karoline didn't hold back for a second. She flat out called Karine Jean-Pierre bitter, saying it's no surprise considering KJP once worked for what Karoline described as one of the most incompetent presidents in American history. That comment hit hard. What makes it even more interesting is how well Karoline seems to be doing in her role. She's earned praise for her composure, quick wit, and strong command in the press room, all qualities her predecessor was often criticized for lacking. Karoline even hinted that KJP's hostility might come from a touch of jealousy. After all, watching your replacement excel where you once struggled can sting. Maybe that's why Karine keeps throwing jabs. One thing's for sure, this feud stopped being about politics long ago. It's personal now, and Karoline has no plans to let up. But she wasn't the only one calling out KJP. Megyn Kelly had her own strong words.
She's very mad at the Democrat Party for not backing Joe Biden all the way through to the presidential election. What a farce. She was part of the cover-up. She knows damn well he couldn't have done it. She was part of the reason that they had to scramble to replace him in, June, July of 2024. But the lying as she's promoting this book about how she had no idea, she didn't see him on the plane ride over to the debate, so she just wasn't near him, as if it was just a one-night thing and she just missed it in the lead-up. And then secondly, she's getting guff from Democrats for being such a turncoat. And the subtitle of the book is It's Independent, an insider's look at the White House. So people are giving her a hard time, like, you're such a turncoat. The Democrat Party made you. The only reason people know your name is because of this party you're ripping on.
Megyn Kelly didn't sugarcoat anything when it came to Karine Jean-Pierre. She flatly called her a turncoat, accusing her of showing zero gratitude to the same political party that launched her career. Before becoming White House press secretary, Kelly noted hardly anyone outside of Washington even knew who KJP was. The Democratic Party gave her one of the most visible roles in the country and stood by her through gaffes, awkward briefings, and heavy criticism. But instead of loyalty, KJP walked away and began spilling insider details about the Biden White House. To Megyn Kelly, that wasn't courage, it was betrayal. She called it a classic case of someone turning political failure into a publicity stunt, biting the very hand that once fed her.
Are the Democrats jealous that Trump's building this big, beautiful ballroom?
It certainly appears that way, Jesse, and I believe there's a lot of fake outrage right now because nearly every single president who has lived in this beautiful White House behind me has made modernizations and renovations of their own. And in fact, presidents for decades in the modern time have quipped about how they wish they had a larger event space here at the White House that can hold hundreds more people than the current East Room and State Dining Rooms can. In fact, President Obama notably complained that during his tenure, he had to hold a state visit on the South Lawn and get a very expensive tent.
Exactly. That's the Democrat playbook on full display. The double standard they've perfected over the years. When they do something, it's hailed as brave and forward-thinking. But when Donald Trump does the same thing, it's instantly condemned as reckless, corrupt, or unpresidential. Take the new Event Center project at the White House, for instance. Presidents from both parties have discussed expanding the space for decades, and no one said a word. But the moment Trump took real action, critics lost it, ranting about costs, motives, and optics as if the idea hadn't come from bipartisan planning. It's the same story every time. When a Democrat acts, it's called historic progress. When Trump acts, it's branded a scandal. The hypocrisy couldn't be clearer.
If you talk to journalists who have covered the White House for decades, as I do here every single day, they will also tell you that administration after administration have publicly and privately spoken about the need for a larger event space. So while many presidents have privately dreamt about this, it's President Trump who is actually doing something about it. And he is the builder in chief. In large part, he was reelected back to this people's house because he's good at building things.
Donald Trump won the presidency because millions of Americans believed he could restore the country's former greatness to make America strong, proud, and prosperous again. They saw in him a leader who understood business, could boost the economy, protect jobs, and revive industries long ignored by Washington elites, and Trump delivered during his first term. His administration launched major infrastructure efforts, from a massive investment plan to upgrades at LaGuardia and O'Hare airports, expanded rural broadband, modernized highways, and built the U.S. Mexico border wall. Each project reflected his commitment to rebuilding America's foundation. So when election season came around, his supporters weren't just voting for a man. They were backing a vision of resilience, renewal, and unapologetic national pride.
And the East Wing, which is an entirely separate structure from the executive mansion you see behind me, will be more modern and beautiful than ever. And then on top of that, the White House is going to have a big, beautiful ballroom for generations of Americans to come. And the best part of it all, it's not a dime of the taxpayers' money. The president has worked hard to privately fund this entire project from start to finish.
You'd think the fact that this project is privately funded would silence the critics, but no such luck. They're still hurling accusations that the president is tearing down tradition and ruining the White House. Here's the truth. This expansion isn't about vanity. It's a necessary modernization that will benefit every future president, no matter their party. Updating old infrastructure, creating more event space, and improving security are all upgrades any administration would appreciate. But because Trump initiated it, critics are painting it as destruction instead of progress. The reality is the opposite. It's about preserving and improving the nation's most iconic building. History will likely view it not as an ego project, but as a smart, forward-looking move that future leaders will quietly thank him for. At this stage, the feud between Karoline Leavitt and Karine Jean-Pierre has gone far beyond politics. It's become a battle over legacy. On one side, Karoline stands strong, open, and confident. On the other, KJP appears defensive, resentful, and still haunted by the failures of the Biden era. Add Megyn Kelly's sharp criticism to the mix, and it's clear the cracks in the Democratic establishment are widening fast. What began as a war of words has now evolved into a fight for credibility, and for the moment, Karoline is clearly ahead. Her honesty, energy, and results speak louder than KJP's excuses. Both the public and Washington insiders have noticed. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.